Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We want to welcome you to our second session of our new webinar series called College How. I'm your host, Allison Bibb Carson. I'm the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at College Now here in Cleveland. Tonight, what we're going to be discussing is a great, big, stressful topic of financial aid. And we all know that paying for college is one of the biggest sources of stress for students and families. It can often feel overwhelming, but the good news is that there are so many tools out there, there are strategies and there are resources that are available to make college more affordable than it might appear. So tonight, we're joined by a panel of experts, and they're going to break down what you need to know, what steps you can take now, and how financial aid works, and ways to bridge the gap in cost so that your goals stay within reach. The earlier you plan, the more options you have. So the more you know, the further you'll go. Before we get started, I want to share a little bit about College Now and what we do. College Now is actually the nation's first and Ohio's largest college access and completion organization. We've been around for nearly 60 years and we've helped thousands of students of all ages prepare for, apply for, and pay for college through advising, scholarships, and community partnerships so we can ensure that every student has the support they need to reach their education and career goals. So now that we have all of that out of the way and we know you know a little bit who we are, I want to introduce our panel. First, we have Kathy Graham. Kathy is a lifelong educator and she's spent the past 15 years at College Now helping students navigate the college going process as an advisor. Kathy currently works with students in the Top Scholars Program in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, but she works for us here at College Now. Next, we have Brad Lindberg. Brad is the Associate Vice President of Institutional Initiatives and Enrollment at Grinnell College in Iowa. He's also worked in the financial aid space for about 25 years and has worked for Grinnell and for 12 years. He loves helping families realize that a private liberal arts education is financially attainable. And also a fun fact, if you are part of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and you might be eligible for the Say Yes Cleveland Scholarship. And if you are, Grinnell is actually a new partner in that. So there's a really good possibility that Brad and his folks at Grinnell could be seeing you soon. And then finally tonight we have De'Ara Giddens. De'Ara graduated from John Hay High School in Cleveland in 2024. She's now a sophomore at North Carolina A&T University, majoring in psychology. De'Ara, we wanted to have her on because she has won over $50,000 in scholarships and is fully funded through the first 2 years of college. So welcome, everybody. Why don't we jump right into the conversation? So we're talking about financial aid tonight. So what can a family do now to have a better idea of what the true cost of each college will be for their kiddo? Who wants to jump in?
So I think knowledge is power, and the earlier you start, you can kind of get a sense, but every college has a net price calculator that is usually fairly accurate. I also think it means having options. So a lot of students stay away from schools that they think are expensive, but schools like Grinnell, I'm going to let Brad talk about that, could be very affordable depending on your family's financial circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Catherine. I think the best advice I can give to families now about what should I be doing and how can I get a better idea of what college is going to cost, I think there's three things, and Catherine already mentioned one of them. So the first thing is I think it's important to understand what a college's, what I would call sticker price is. So you know you're comparing baseline to baseline as you get started. And this isn't what you're going to pay. This is what the college costs. So I oftentimes encourage families to make a spreadsheet, take out a legal pad, and write down the list of colleges that they're considering. And then I ask them to write down the costs at that college. And some things are really easy. So tuition and fees. What does it cost to be a student? What are the fees associated with being a student? And that fees part is an important part to pay attention to because at a college like Grinnell, we have one fee. Another college might have 12 fees. It's important to know what those things are. How much will it cost to live and eat on campus? How much will it cost for me to have books and supplies and travel expenses, et cetera, et cetera? So have that apples to apples ready. And then I would give the advice that Catherine just shared. That's nice to know what a place charges. What you need to know is what it's going to cost you. And I really encourage you to go out and use a college's net price calculator. Some of them are really good. Some of them are close to good, and some of them will give you a wide range. I'll give you a for example at Grinnell. Grinnell is a small school in central Iowa. We have a high sticker price, but we are the most affordable school in Iowa for low-income families. So what I encourage families to do is sit down and complete our net price calculator. We have three. One where you have to answer no questions and can just use a slider. And based upon your income, it'll give you a range of financial aid that you might be eligible for. The second asks 5 questions about your income and assets. The third asks you a whole series of questions. That third, because it asks you that whole series of questions, is by far the most accurate. So I would say right now, if you're a junior or even at the beginning of your search as a senior, use the easier tools if schools offer more than one tools. And then as you get more serious, sit down with your parents or guardians, get tax information in front of you and complete that net price calculator. The third thing I would say is don't be embarrassed, quiet to call the financial aid office. There are financial aid counselors at every college you're considering who are more than willing to sit down and talk to you either virtually, in person, about what an education at that school would cost. So oftentimes I say to prospective families, students don't hesitate to talk to admission counselors, and they do hesitate to talk to aid counselors. So don't hesitate to ask your questions and visit the websites at each individual school. I'll end with the fact that the most often answer for financial aid is it depends. It depends upon you. It depends upon the school that you're applying and the circumstances that you find yourself in. So use those websites and use resources on campus.
So thank you for that, Kathy and Brad. I think, so would it be fair to say that for families who are feeling overwhelmed, the first step that maybe they should take is to actually find out approximately how much college or particular college would cost to them by using that net price calculator? Okay, and that net price calculator is available on every
Every
college
college is
website?
Every college is federally required to have a net price calculator. So you can literally Google the name of the college you're interested in and net price calculator, and it will pop up as one of the first few results in your search.
Perfect. I think that's really great advice and something I learned about tonight too, seeing as I have a junior in high school. So I'm right there with you. All right, so we want to move on to the FAFSA. We are in major FAFSA season right now. So could you talk to us about, Kathy, maybe you could start, how important is the FAFSA? Why don't you explain what the FAFSA is, what that stands for, and talk about if there are additional steps required in the financial aid process.
Yeah. So the FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It opened October 1st, so if folks are eager, they can fill it out now. They've actually made it even more simple this year, so it's a fairly streamlined process. But I think of the FAFSA as a key that unlocks a lot of different types of aid. So at a public university, it would unlock any grants, not only the Pell Grant, but maybe some grants that the school might have available for students that are based on need. It unlocks loans, it unlocks work study, but it's also a key to a lot of outside scholarships as well. So I would encourage every student to complete the FAFSA. I know in different schools I've served at that have had students of different income levels, a lot of students are reluctant to do it because they think they don't make enough to qualify for anything. But it will give you access to different sources of money and everyone should do it. Um, I'm gonna stop and let Brad chime in because there are some extra steps for schools like Grinnell.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Sure. And I could not agree with Kathy more. I think every family in their first year should complete a FAFSA no matter what school you're applying to, and no matter or not whether you think you're going to be eligible for financial aid. There is no harm to doing the form other than the time it takes to complete the FAFSA. So a few things about the FAFSA before I move on to some helpful hints about applying at different types of colleges. The FAFSA is going to look at information that's 2 years old. So in the 26-27 school year, the FAFSA is going to ask for you and your parents to have your 2024 taxes in front of you as you complete it. So as you think about doing the FAFSA, it sounds overwhelming. It's really not. My advice to you is to sit down with your parent or guardian, have your tax forms in front of you, both student and parent, and then really just take the 30 or 45 minutes it takes to go through, create your FSA ID and do all of the information that you need to do on the FAFSA and submit that to colleges. It's a really important thing to do in the first year. The schools will ask you to complete the FAFSA every year if you're eligible for need-based financial aid. So this is something you're going to want to get comfortable with and be knowledgeable about. So you're going to submit that FAFSA. You're then going to you'll apply to college, you'll get admitted, and the FAFSA, as Kathy said, really unlocks different types of financial aid, which we can talk about a little bit more in depth as we move on in today's presentation. But my advice to you when it comes to applying for financial aid, this is another one of those it depends moments. What a school requires for my financial aid is dependent upon that individual school. I can tell you that 99.5% of colleges in America will require a FAFSA to unlock at least federal and state financial aid. So it's a wonderful place to start. Then I would encourage you to look at the individual web pages or contact the colleges that you're considering to see if there are other requirements as well. But the FAFSA's great place to start. You can do it now. If you're a senior, you don't even have had to apply to college yet. You can sit down and complete your FAFSA and just get that out of the way right now.
That's really great advice. Do you know, so I guess you would know, so are there financial aid packages that students can also get from the individual colleges?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's going to happen is the individual college will ask you to apply for financial aid with the requirements that they have. Might only be a FAFSA. There's another form we can talk about a little bit later called the profile. But the submission of that FAFSA will unlock, as Kathy said, aid resources at that college, whether they be aid resources directly from the college or from the federal or state governments. So what you're going to see is when you get admitted, you will get a financial aid notification, and those notifications will let you know what your actual cost of attending that institution will be.
Great, great. Regarding that, go ahead,
I'm
Kathy.
sorry. You know, the one thing I want to mention, I know De'Ara had to do quite a bit of this. It's really important for students to be researching the deadlines for aid because a lot of universities will have institutional money tied to priority deadlines. So, for example, Ohio State here, you have to apply to the college by November 1st, and then you can submit your FAFSA. But it's really important that you hit their priority deadlines to be eligible for all the aid. If you miss that deadline, you might miss out on any institutional money, scholarships, or otherwise that they might offer. So it's really important to do your research. I think, De'Ara, you had to meet a certain deadline for NCAT, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it might have been November as well.
Yeah, I actually think it was October 15th your year. They switched it to November 1st, but the year you went, I think it was October 15th, which was kind of hard because most schools, it is November 1st, but every school has their own deadline, and some look on the admissions side like there isn't a deadline, but if you go digging a little bit, you'll see like to be eligible for scholarships. So it's really important to do that research.
Yeah, I think, Kathy, that's the most important point, quite honestly. Pay attention to deadlines. They're going to be different at every school, but do your best to meet them if you can.
Okay. Great. I do want to bring you in, De'Ara, a little bit. I mean, could you talk a little bit about, what you did to secure financial aid and scholarships? Kind of walk us through, if you recall, a few years ago, what you did regarding filling out the FAFSA and all that.
I literally listened to whatever Ms. Graham told me to do. If Ms. Graham sent me a scholarship, I did the scholarship. Most of the scholarships, they're like just really easy to do, especially college now scholarships. They're like really easy to do. All of the requirements are usually like on one page. They want you to put like your transcript, this, that, and the third. And it's like all the requirements are just on one page. And you would submit all of that on one page. So it's kind of like really easy to do. For the FAFSA, I feel like the FAFSA was easy as well. Like I thought it was going to be like this really hard process. The only thing that was kind of like a little reluctant on doing was the MPN, what is it, the master promissory note. And I think Miss Graham literally sat there with me and like completed it. Cause that was like the only thing I was kind of like, I don't really want to mess this up because that's for the loans. So for you to be eligible to receive any like loans, I think what is it, subsidized and unsubsidized loans, you have to complete the MPN. And a lot of people don't know that. They just think they're supposed to just automatically get the loans, but you do have to complete the MPN for you to be eligible for those loans. As far as scholarships, I mean, you really have to search for scholarships, or if your school does not send it, I recommend just looking up like any scholarship in your area. You can just search it up literally on Google, say scholarships for high school seniors in Cleveland, Ohio, or wherever you're from. You can just put that, or like even just your school district, they might just do it based off of school districts. Because I know some of college now you have to be in the Cleveland Metro School District, and some you could get from other school districts. So I mean, you really just have to look and try your best, because some people they're not trying to apply because they feel like someone else is going to win those scholarships. So if everybody is feeling like that, nobody is really going to apply.
One applies.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah.
Really good advice. Thank you, De'Ara.
Yeah, you know what else I think De'Ara did really well was used all her resources, and she used more than just me, but she networked. She found out about scholarships not only through her school, College Now, but also through friends who were applying for scholarships, through other resources. And I think that that's really important because a lot of people think like De'Ara is saying, I'm not going to be the one to win it. But if I think the number one trait of all the students I've worked with over the years who have been fully funded like De'Ara is not their GPAs, not their test scores, but their ability, their willingness to do that hard work and go out there and hustle. So if you're willing to do it, it'll come back to you.
Really, really great advice. Thank you, Kathy. Before we move on from the FAFSA and kind of general financial aid, I'm curious to know, like, what if a student or a parent, if they're not if what they're being offered as far as financial aid is concerned, if what they're being offered is far from what they can afford, what are there still other options for them?
I would say yes. So generally, financial aid at most colleges is fairly formulaic. You're going to complete that FAFSA, maybe another form that the institution requires. The financial aid office is going to crunch the numbers, for lack of a better term, and return a result to you. Now, if that result does not make sense for your family, my advice to you is two things. First and most importantly, contact the financial aid office. Have a discussion with them. Don't just write the school off because it's unaffordable to you based upon the initial results that were delivered in your financial aid notification. Maybe they got something wrong. Maybe your circumstances are nuanced and the raw and static numbers don't tell the story of your family. This is something we call in our world special circumstances. Maybe your family is taking care of grandparents. Maybe that 2024 income doesn't accurately represent what you're earning today in 2026 when you're going to go to school next year. So definitely contact the aid office. The second thing I would say is do that hard work that De'Ara did. Really go after those outside scholarships. Do that hard work, do that networking. Try to find those sources of aid to fill that gap.
Great. When can a student expect to receive financial information from colleges? Is that with their admission package or admission letter?
That's a really great question. And unfortunately, that's an it depends answer again.
Uh-oh.
So, what I would tell you is at most colleges and universities, when you are admitted, as long as you have met the financial aid deadlines and submitted all your materials, you're going to get something from financial aid shortly after your admission. Here at Grinnell, you're admitted, and as long as you've done all your aid documents, you get your financial aid at the exact same time that you're admitted. Other schools, bigger schools, schools that have different processes, there might be a week delay or a bit longer of a delay. What I would say to you is that if you've been admitted and it's been a week or, 10 days and you haven't heard anything about aid yet, might be worth an email to the financial aid office of that individual school to ask if you're missing something or if they just haven't had the chance to produce financial aid for you yet.
You know, the number one reason that I've noticed students don't get those award letters is because the Social Security card on their FAFSA, which almost always is correct because it's hard to be matched with the Social Security Administration if you get wrong, is different from the one that they typed on their college application. So they would want to check their college application, or a lot of students decide not to put their Social Security number on their college application. And the school needs that to match you with your FAFSA. So everyone should include that Social Security number.
Really, really great tip. I want to move on and talk a little bit more about loans. So obviously, the financial aid through the FAFSA, through the federal government, that is a loan. And we always hear that we should avoid loans. So can you talk about are loans bad? What are there other options for what other options are there if someone doesn't want to borrow money?
No, that's a really great question. It's a really hard question to answer. And I do want to back up real quick because I
Sure.
would be remiss not to mention at schools like Grinnell that have a significant amount of institutional or college-based grant aid, that's aid that doesn't need to be repaid, they're probably going to ask you to do more than the FAFSA. And I just want to put one name out there so you've heard it and are familiar at least with the name, and that's the CSS profile. So schools like Grinnell will ask families to do a FAFSA and a profile. The FAFSA unlocks your eligibility at these schools for state and federal aid, and the profile unlocks your eligibility for institutional grant aid that doesn't need to be repaid. So I just wanted to put that out there really quick. If you're wondering if the school you're considering requires a profile, website is the best place to go. There's always going to be a how to apply page that will tell you what you need to do, or if there's things beyond the FAFSA and profile. Now, your question about loans is a good one, and it's a hard one for me to answer because it's really family dependent. So I would tell you, for me, loans are not a bad thing. So we oftentimes hear in the news or in the newspaper about stories about students and families who have left college with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of loans. That's a bad thing. I would say in most cases, those are the exception rather than the rule. So when I talk with families about loans, first thing I tell them, it's very family specific. You might not be comfortable borrowing, and that's just fine. But you might be comfortable borrowing an amount that makes sense for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I oftentimes talk with students about, what are your plans when you graduate? Are you going to go into the foreign service, or are you going to be in financial sector, a teacher? What are you planning to do when you graduate from college? And that can change, but it's a good place to start to think about how much loan is the right amount of loan for me. Um, so here at Grinnell, we don't use loans in our financial aid packages. You'll get a financial aid package with only grant and only student work or employment on campus. But even so, that doesn't mean loans are bad for you. It is really up to you and your family. The financial aid office can help you navigate the loan programs. There are both federal, sometimes state, and then private loan programs that you can borrow from. And the financial aid office can really walk you through what program might be right for you. How much you borrow is to me really a family decision. That's something between the students and the parents, but I would not be scared of loans. Loans are not bad. They can be really good opportunities to help you finance college. I'll just say one more thing and then I'll stop. It's really important that you know what you're borrowing. And I think the two most important things to think about when you're borrowing a loan is one, what's the interest rate? Is it 2%, 20%? Is it fixed? Does it not change? Does it change? Is it variable? Very important. The second thing that's very important, when and how do I pay it back? Do I have to pay it back when I'm still in college? Can I wait till I graduate? What happens if I go to graduate school? I think those are the really important things to think about. I often encourage students to start with the federal loan programs, and those are the top two programs you're seeing on this slide here in front of you today, the direct subsidized and unsubsidized loan programs. Kathy, I don't know if you have any other insight as well.
Yeah, and Kathy, I'd love if you could maybe touch on how you see the difference between federal loans and private loans. Is it just the interest rate? We can see on here that the private loans, the interest rate tends to be much higher.
Yeah, it's
but-
also the repayment terms
Okay.
too, that the federal loans, and there's different repayment plans for the federal loans as well that could make it a little bit more affordable for you as well. It is definitely a personal decision and usually a family decision as well, but I am going to say I look at it as an investment in yourself, your earning power with being able to complete your 4-year degree is going to be significantly higher than without having that degree. So again, the typical loan, if you don't do anything and you ignore it, and unfortunately there's some people who don't look at the other repayment plans, is going to default into a 10-year payment that you have to start working on 6 months after you exit school, whether it be you graduated, which is what we want everyone to do, or if it's for some reason you had to leave. Now that Dear is drinking, I'm gonna put her on the spot here. But there was more to this loan process than signing the master promissory note that you had to do. Do you remember that counseling? You had to do that entrance counseling?
Oh, yeah.
And what can you share a little bit about what that process, what it informed you about?
It's, if I'm not mistaken, those were like the videos and everything, and they had you like answer the questions afterward to make sure like you really understand what you had to do, like once you accepted those loans, when you would pay those back. I'm trying to remember.
But it also had you look at how much your education was going to cost you, how much you thought you might be borrowing over the 4 years, and then it had you predict what they thought your earnings would be using federal tools so that you can see if it would be a good investment in terms of being able to pay it back comfortably, because we want everyone not to have to scrimp and save and make sacrifices for the loans. We want that loan to pay itself off with your
Yeah.
increased earnings. So there are tools to look at that. And there's also if you want to look at it before you're ready to take out the loans, they actually have like simulators where you can go in and plug in numbers so that you know that before you're even deciding.
Also some colleges, I know my college does it. If you don't want to take out any loans and you're able to like pay over time, some colleges allow you to do installment payments as well. So if you can afford those like weekly or monthly or annually, like however they do it, because some colleges do it like different ways. I think mine, it has you like pay it off before you start the courses, but other colleges may be different and they may let you pay it off like within that academic school year. So you could also talk to them about that in case you don't want to do like any loans at all.
Really great. Thank you. Dear, I'm gonna keep you on the spot because we're gonna move over to scholarships and would really love to hear you go a little bit more in depth about scholarships. Now, just to remind everyone, De'Ara did the hard work and she secured $50,000 in scholarships, and she's now a sophomore at North Carolina A&T University. So, like, tell us what you did besides doing what Ms. Graham told you to do. How did you find scholarships?
Well, with College Now, I know they would send us scholarships out, but my high school that I went to, they would also send us like an email full, like with different scholarships and would say like the requirements, like how long the essay had to be, GPA requirement and everything. But also, I would say, even if you don't meet like some of the requirements, maybe like a test score or something, if it still lets you apply, I would say still apply, because like depending on your essay and like how well you write, they may just give it to you. So like never really be discouraged to apply. It doesn't really matter as long as it doesn't require you to like submit it and like it automatically denies you. If it lets you submit it and like you have like maybe a point or two lower than like their goal test score, I would say still apply. Cause you never know. I know my one teacher in high school, Mr. Desfeda, he told me he applied for like an all-girl scholarship, but nobody else like applied for the scholarship and they literally gave it to him. So just like putting yourself out there to apply for those scholarships, or like ask a teacher. A teacher might know someone like who they have went to like college with or something who has a scholarship like set in place. So they may know people as well, or whatever college you're looking to go to, you can also contact them because they usually have like scholarships only like dedicated for first year students. I know my college did. You had to like submit your essays and everything during a certain period for you to even be like considered for those. So yeah, definitely just like put yourself out there and try to submit those.
How many different scholarships do you think you applied for?
Actually, I have a list right here. Let me count them. One.
She's still applying. She keeps me busy with letters of recommendation, this one.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's great because as Miss Graham said, you are a great self-advocate, and I think that's one thing that everyone needs to learn. So while De'Ara is counting her scholarships, Brad or Kathy, could you maybe talk about like kind of the different types of scholarships that are out there?
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important question. My first advice to you is do that FAFSA, whatever else you need to do, and apply to the school. The school will then tell you everything that's available through the school and the federal and state government. That's their job. So federal and state governments will have grants. The federal government has the Pell Grant program. They have a number of other programs. States like Iowa have an Iowa tuition grant program to help students. And then institutions have grant programs. The institutional grant programs are going to be one of two kinds. And I think it's important to understand the difference. The first kind is a merit-based scholarship from the institution. And it's just like it sounds. It's based upon your achievements, your grade point average, the classes you took in high school, maybe a essay like De'Ara was discussing. That merit aid is going to be different at different colleges. You're going to want to pay attention to the colleges you're applying to because you might need to fill out an additional application to unlock that merit or achievement-based aid. So pay attention. Here at Grinnell, when you apply for admission, that's all you need to do. The prior college that I worked at, you needed to fill out a scholarship application form and submit essays. So it's different at each colleges. The other side of institutional aid is going to be need-based aid. And this is just what it sounds like too. This is aid that's available to you based upon your family's financial circumstances. So you have the merit-based and the need-based aid. Then really the third piece is the piece that it sounds like De'Ara hit really hard on, which is awesome. And this is outside sources of grant aid. So not from the school, not from the federal or state governments, but maybe it's from your high school or a local foundation. These are the ones that are going to be very specific to you, and you're going to have to do some searching for them. I'll put 2 links of trusted resources that we use here at Grinnell to help students find outside sources of aid. That doesn't mean they're the only trusted sources or the best trusted sources. They are the ones that we direct students to. My advice to you is never pay anyone to help you find a scholarship. If there's an application fee or a finder's fee or any kind of fee, that's not a scholarship you're going to want to apply for. These scholarships should have applications that are free and easy to understand. And I'll put 2 links in the chat of scholarship aggregator websites that we use here at Grinnell to help our students find those outside sources.
Great. Thank you, Brad. De'Ara, what's that number?
If I have all of them here correctly, then it should be 9 scholarships.
Then you applied for 9 scholarships?
Yeah,
Is that just this year? I feel like you did so many more.
it really may
Friend.
be, but I think those are just the ones that I have like
Mm.
documented down from like doing other.
I think those are the ones she won. I hate to say
Yeah.
it
Oh,
like that.
yeah. I did.
Yeah, she applied
way
to more.
than, yeah, I definitely applied to way more than 9. I'm not sure like the official number of scholarships I applied to because I also applied to scholarships now that I'm still in college as well. Like I
Right.
applied to some over this summer, like Thurgood Marshall, any of those. What is it?
UNCF.
Yeah, I also go on there as well. So I'm not really sure with like the amount that I apply for because if I see it or if like any of my friends or if my college sends some out, like I will apply for it and like without thinking of it because I mean, you gotta at least try to get the money.
I'm gonna share something that I share with my students. So I had a student a few years ago who was fully funded and figured out she won 8 scholarships. She's a journalist now, so this is kind of the way her brain always worked. She won 8, but her aid would have been displaced, so she only accepted 5 of the 8 because some of them were one-time only scholarships. And she went back and calculated, and she had applied to 40 scholarships to win her 8 over the course of the year. And a lot of people wait until they get their award letters to apply for scholarships. And at a lot of, especially the big public schools, that's not going to be until February, March, April. And by then the scholarship season's kind of petering out. So you want to be proactive, and even before you know you need the money, you want to start applying now so that you have all those opportunities.
That's really great. So when you say applying now, Kathy, is that like now? So if you're a senior now, you should be starting to apply for the scholarship.
November 28th, Chick-fil-A has a big $25,000 scholarship
Wow.
that's due. You can't work at Chick-fil-A for that one. They have another one for employees, but there's lots of opportunities, especially the big money is kind of in October, November, December. And some scholarship students are finding out yesterday if they were selected as finalists, like the Questbridge Scholarship. So scholarships have been moving along here. So we
Right.
don't want people to be left behind.
Is it, do you have to wait until senior year? Are there some scholarships, like if you're a junior who academically, who excels academically, could you apply earlier?
There are some just for juniors. So the big bulk of scholarships is for the high school seniors, but there are some that you can do early. And I guess I'm going to share two more. There's a Coolidge scholarship that's due in early December. And then the other one I want to mention is the Big Futures scholarship, which everyone did the PSAT and hopefully knows the SAT. And doing that scholarship, you're completing tasks that you should be doing that's going to help you with this process anyway. You can win up to $40,000 with that scholarship. And I know De'Ara loves to write essays, but that's one that doesn't require an essay. And it's rare. Usually I tell students the essays are worth doing because those are the ones you're more likely to win.
When you can kind of tell your full story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. So I know we have quite a few folks on the webinar tonight, and I just want to remind you to, if you have any questions that you would like for our esteemed panelists to answer, please enter them into the Q&A, and then we will definitely be able to get to them in just a few minutes. But before we get to the Q&A, I wanted to ask one last question, De'Ara, if you wouldn't mind starting. Kind of what's one myth that you want to bust for students regarding college affordability? And if you don't have if you want to think about it a little bit, then we can go to the other two guests.
I would say I'm trying to think. Probably about loans. Like a lot of colleges, they will give you like scholarships, like in-house scholarships from that school. So you may not need loans. So like if you're stressing out about, oh, I have to accept this loan, or oh, my parents have to do this loan, we're not going to be able to afford this loan, you may not even have to accept the loan. Because I didn't have to accept any loans until summer, I believe. And how much did I accept? I think it was less than $3,000. And it was just for me to take summer classes. And the summer classes weren't required of me. I could have just not did those and I still would have like no loans. So really don't be scared about the loans because you may not even have to take the loans.
Any myths you all want to bust, or another way to put it, what would be a good takeaway from tonight that you want to make sure that families know about?
Don't let the price tag scare you. Like Brad was sharing, some schools will adjust their prices, and then other schools like NCAT has a higher price tag, especially if you're like De'Ara, an out-of-state student. But if you're willing to hustle, like if you have a goal, but I'm gonna say De'Ara left her options open. If she didn't have those outside scholarships, there were other schools that she was accepted to and had award letters for that would have been more affordable than NCAT. But because she hustled, she was able to make that a reality.
Yeah, and I would say those are two wonderful pieces of advice. I think they would have been my number one and number two, if I'm being honest with you. So I'll go to my number three, which is that financial aid offices are unhelpful or scary. I've worked in financial aid for 25 years at 6 different schools. For 99 out of 100 financial aid counselors that I've had the pleasure of working with, their main goal is to make college finances understandable to you. They might not always be able to say yes, but they are there to answer your questions, and you should really take them up on the opportunity to call or email and ask your questions. And there should be no such thing as a financial aid emergency or mystery. So take them up on the offer. If you have an email address or a phone number, ask your questions.
Excellent, excellent. I have one really quick question. So colleges put out the sticker price. Does anyone actually pay the sticker price, or is it kind of like buying a car where no one pays the actual price?
You know, that's a really wonderful question. And it depends on the college. So here at Grinnell, 93% of our students receive some form of financial aid. So 7% of students are paying the sticker price. The rest, 93%, are paying something less than that. And I think that's it varies from school to school and place to place. But generally, most people are getting some sort of financial aid depending upon their circumstances.
Right.
And the only way you're going to know that is to apply. So that's
Sure.
why we encourage everyone to apply, even if they don't think they're going to be eligible.
You can always turn it down, but you shouldn't. All right, so we do have a couple of questions. One, Kathy, if you could, can you repeat what you shared about the Chick-fil-A scholarship? I think maybe the
Oh.
deadline and if you know a little bit more
Sure.
about
It's due October 28th. It's worth $25,000. You can't be a Chick-fil-A employee, and it's really rewarding community involvement and leadership in your community. So there are essays, sorry, but again, it's one that seniors really should take a look at, especially if they are engaged and active. And community doesn't just mean school, it could be the wider community as well.
Great. And I'm sure if you go to the Chick-fil-A website or if you Google Chick-fil-A scholarship, there's more information about that.
I just put the link in the question. So if you look under answered questions, the link to that scholarship will be there. If you click on Q&A and then answered questions, everyone should be able to see that link.
Perfect. Got it. Thank you. And then Brad, maybe you can find this one too. What is the website for the Coolidge Scholarship? Do you happen to know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll find it and I'll put it in underneath that question too.
Brad, you're hired. I am going to say I would not discount the Big Futures Scholarship. They give out two $40,000 prizes every month, and then they have smaller $500 prizes as well. And you can apply for that from the middle of your sophomore year until February of your senior year. So that's another really great opportunity.
One of the
I put that oh, I'm sorry. I put that Coolidge link in that same space underneath the question, so it's there as well.
Thank you so much. And then also, so College Now actually manages 60 different scholarships from the Cleveland Foundation. Kathy, do you have any experience with those scholarships? And
I encourage everyone to apply for those because again, those are one of the ones that sometimes it's hard to, doesn't have necessarily a large applicant pool. The one piece of advice I would give for that, and current college students could also apply, is that when you're creating your account, how you answer those initial questions helps determine which of those 62 scholarships you'll be looked at for. But there's also a question that's if there is a scholarship that you're specifically interested in, like, please share like one that you think you qualify for, because some of it would be hard to tell from those questions. And then College Now has our traditional scholarship and our other managed funds besides the Cleveland Foundation. A lot of high schools have alumni groups or their parent teacher organizations that have scholarships. So there's lots of ways to start to build that portfolio. And then also what you and your parents do in the community will help where you work, where they work, what clubs they're involved in, your church, what hobbies you have.
Right.
And the other new thing, I'm sorry, I know we're almost at time. The Common App now has a list of scholarships inside of it. It looks like a little bag of money. So on that left-hand side, go down to that bag of money and click on it because that's going to give you some scholarships that the Common App feels like is a fit for you.
Which is only then one application for.
No, it takes you to links. The only scholarship that I know of 100% that's in the Common App, and that's due in November for seniors, is the Jack Cook Kent. I always feel like I get the names
Excellent.
reversed. It's either Jack Kent Cook
Jack
or
Kent Cook.
Okay, see, I did it again.
Really great. And then we have, I think one more question, just about like secrets to winning scholarships. What are the most common mistakes that you see that students make on scholarship applications?
Putting in an essay that doesn't answer the prompt for the scholarship. So a lot of people just want to use their college application essay. And sometimes that'll work, but a lot of times it won't. And that's really how you finesse it. And De'Ara is a good example. You had, how many essays do you think you wrote? And then you would switch around the pieces.
Probably about 5 max, I believe. But mostly I would either shorten it or extend it depending on like the word count. Cause some like scholarships wanted like 1,000 words, or others wanted like 500 or 200 or 300. So you would just kind of like switch it around, but it would kind of be like the same scholarship. You would just, summarize it sometimes or make it extensive.
So it'd be like the same essay. So De'Ara, you say you probably wrote like 5 different essays from scratch, and then you could, move sections around or add to them or delete some of it based on the word count.
Yeah.
That is super smart. Cool. Anyone else, Kathy or Brad, any final, anything you want to say while oh, you know what? We actually do have a question. Where is the money bag that was referenced? I'm looking for that money bag too, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think it was you mentioned on the Common App.
Yeah, so if the student logs into their Common App account, so they have to have a Common App account. And on the left-hand side, they have icons for each of the sections. One of the last ones, it looks like a little bag of money, and it's scholarships.
Great. Well, I think, unless Brad, De'Ara, or Kathy, unless you have anything else you want to add, I think we have reached the end of our time. Good. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight and taking an active step towards making college more affordable for you. And as you heard tonight, there are so many options and strategies and resources available. And the most important thing is you don't have to figure them out on your own, because College Now is here to help. And you can talk to your College Now advisor if there's an advisor in your school, or you can just call College Now or send us an email. That information is on the slide right there on your screen. But I also want to make sure that you know that you can join our next College How webinar session on Wednesday, November 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. In that session, we're going to be discussing how to build a strong resume and how participation in extracurricular activities in high school, how they play an important role in the college application process. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. And we hope you have a great night.